if they can't rein him in, I think he becomes a genuine problem for them. He has been the muscle and enforcer on Twitter for other bills. Like, Elon has been there to help Trump push them through. Like, there are ways in which these two guys start to end up pitted against each other.
Hello, everyone. This is JVL here with my best friends, Sarah Longwell and Tim Miller of the Bulwark. Tim, I would like to do a little HR whistleblowing with you now here as a witness. I was on a show for this media company on Monday with one of my colleagues, and she referred to my meat heat. And in the moment, I didn't catch that. But afterwards, people started texting me and saying, "What is Sarah? Your meat? Who uses that phrase? That is a horrifying phrase. That is like moist. Never let her say that again."
That is worse than moist. Way worse than moist. What is that?
Okay.
What do you have to say for yourself, Sarah?
You're right. This is fair, but I'll tell you where it comes from. You kept calling us being in meat space. Yeah. Right? Yes. When we do the show, we're in meat space. You meant our human meat bodies are near each other.
Our corporeal
and I was talking
forms.
about how that's right. And I was talking about how hot
the
show was. The show in Nashville was so hot and I was so sweaty. And JVL and I
we were so close to each other.
Like on the stage for however the seats were set up. And so I said that it was maybe his meat heat, like meaning his man body heat. But I see where people got that twisted.
That is gross. I'm glad you're doing this. I have a couple comments as well. For one, it's weird to be with you guys sober right now.
You got in your cups a little bit
in the morning, and I was pretty disappointed with the cut of the Secret podcast. I had several people who were asking me if I got my cigarettes, and I was like, "What? That went out?" I was like, "I thought that was just for the room when we were talking about how I needed a cig."
That's the full experience, man.
That went out onto the to the people. I thought we were just kind of performing, and I thought I was the bonus at the end. I came back on. And I was under the impression that I was a bonus, and I was like a little tipsy, and like we were going to have fun for 15 minutes in the room. And JVL like keeps it going for like 45 minutes. I was starting to get the shakes, and then that all went out, I guess, on audio. And I don't think it was my best performance.
The show is the show, like Tim. You said what you said. I will tell you. I don't know. You don't monitor the comments, but I participate in the secret show comments, and. Your appearance was a little bit like Rebecca Black. There were the overwhelming majority of people loved it. But there was a small minority who were not happy. But, as I said to them, I said, look, the overwhelming majority of people love this. And I'm sorry, you just have to live with it. All right.
Anyway.
Last night, the big, beautiful friendship finally ended. Elon Musk turned on Trump. We got our red coats, white coats, dark MAGA, normal MAGA split. And Elon started tweeting in the afternoon. "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore." He's against the big, beautiful bill. He called it an abomination, called it disgusting. He kept going. Then a few hours later, Stephen Miller came onto X to try to mollify the trolls about how it's going to stop illegals from coming in. This big, beautiful bill is really about immigration, he says. And Stephen Miller tries to tell the people of Twitter that there are really three major components to the bill. One is stopping brown people from coming in. Two is cutting taxes on white people. And three is cutting welfare reform, if you're picking up what he's laying down. And the people on Twitter were not having that. And then last night, Mike Johnson picked up his little iPhone and called Elon Musk, and Elon sent him straight to voicemail.
Wait, I missed that. How do we know that?
It was reported this morning.
Did you see the interview with Mike Johnson from yesterday where he was like, "But I just talked to Elon and he was okay. And like, I'm so disappointed."
I did.
And he was like really sad about it. And now Elon's just not answering his calls.
Do you remember the pictures of them on the plane together? Remember Trump?
It's always so good
Musk
in the beginning.
And
eating McDonald's. Mike Johnson would always be sticking his head in from somewhere.
And now it's like the end of Mean Girls when Lindsay Lohan has been exiled from the plastics.
Mean Girls ends well, though.
No, Mean Girl ends with the burn book and them all destroying each other in the gymnasium.
Then they all come back together. Tina Fey brings them back together.
That's yeah.
All right.
I don't see that happening.
Don't get caught up on the details.
I don't think that there's going to be a big meeting in the gymnasium, where Susie Wiles brings Elon and Don and Mike Johnson back together again. I don't.
You both hate brown people. Can't we find some common ground?
What about the Afrikaners? So I have a couple of
think of the white
thoughts.
Genocide. Won't someone think of the white genocide?
So some substantive thoughts about the bill and the fight and what the breakup is over. It is funny you mentioned that Stephen Miller's third point, the largest welfare reform in history, cutting almost $2 trillion in spending. I thought we weren't cutting Medicaid. They can't get it together on that. What are the cuts then? It's just the SNAP. We're just talking about the SNAP cuts for poor rural people who are MAGA voters, because we're just going to pretend like the SNAP cuts only going to black people in the city when really a lot of SNAP goes to rural poor. I don't know. So I do think it's intriguing that that after hearing Mike Johnson and Russ Vogt over the weekend talk about how there are no actual cuts, it's just the fraud, Stephen Miller is out there saying, no, Elon, come back. We cut a lot of welfare from poor brown people. Like, you should like that, right, Elon? So I find that an interesting mixed message. The Elon deficit hawk thing is an intriguing turn, and I'm curious when Sarah gets to speak whether she is having any mixed views about Elon all of a sudden sounding like Simpson Bowles and Paul Ryan and Bill Clinton's budget director all run together. Like he's like tweeting out posts that you only see from like the person they have in the back corner of the AEI office next to Stan Voiger. Like they don't like that. He's tweeting out these graphs like the debt is unsustainable. And so that's got to create some mixed feelings for Sarah. I do think politically it kind of complicates things a little bit for Democrats, in that on the one hand, it's fun to point and laugh and say the guys are fighting and this is a shit show, and that's good for Democrats and easy. The complicating factor is like the thing that Elon is upset about is not the thing that the Democrats would like to focus on, really, right? Like the thing that the Democrats would like to focus on is the tax cuts for the rich and the cuts to Medicaid. And so that makes the messaging a little bit complicated. I don't think that's a huge deal, but I just think it's interesting. And also the thing that Elon is talking about in the debt is probably not the thing that could sink the bill. Though hilariously, my favorite subplot of this is the Freedom Caucus guys who had to just eat this big, beautiful turd, like that they didn't want to, now tweeting and being like, Elon has some good points. And when the bill comes back to us, maybe we'll vote it down. And it's like, that was Scott Perry from Pennsylvania, Sarah's boy. It's like, bro, you already voted for it. Like, what do you mean Elon has some good points? Like, you voted for it. Elon said you should be ashamed of yourself.
Read it. Yeah, they didn't read. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, if I had seen this thing, I wouldn't have voted. Like, they all suddenly are like, oh, that's in there? Well, I would not have voted for it had I known that. My job is to just pass things because Trump says they're good and big and beautiful. Here's the thing. So just on this for 1 second about them eating it. My favorite tweet of Elon's in this whole thread was, in November next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. Now, in the context, now, obviously that's a little vague on its own. What does betrayal mean? But in the context of the pre-tweets, which are about it will massively increase the already gigantic budget deficit to $2.5 trillion and burden American citizens with crushingly unsustainable debt, it appears what he's talking about is they're going to fire all the Republicans who passed the bill. Like, them's fighting words. And to Tim's point about how do I feel about it, you didn't watch. I got on. I know you guys did a Elon video. I got on and did my own Elon video because I did want to be like, Elon's correct. Elon is like substantively, he is correct on
the worst person you know just made a great point.
That's right. But here's what's funny about it. And like, I think it sort of goes to motive, which is, do we think that Elon is sincerely a big debt and deficit hawk? Or do we have two other things going on? So one theory that's been floated is the big, beautiful bill cuts the EV incentives. And so some people have surmised that one of the reasons he's against the bill is because that incentive was taken out of there, right? We're no longer giving people, a whatever like I think it's 4,000 on used EV vehicles, and it might be like 7,000 on new EV vehicles,
and some other energy stuff like electrification plants and nuclear and like stuff that kind of more tangentially affects him. But there are other stuff in that kind of clean energy world that's getting cut that could affect his companies.
That he
woke
doesn't
energy.
Like. So I think that's
we
one
call
thing.
it woke energy.
Sorry,
yeah,
woke energy. The other thing is that Elon sort of staked his claim with Doge on the idea that they were going to cut, right? They're going to make government more efficient. And so he just has reputational skin in the game on this. And I think that because he's been such a colossal failure on his attempts to go from the 2 trillion in cuts that he promised to then the 1 trillion to like, it was really more like 170 or 157 billion, except that actually what they also cost to do all their thing, like it all is kind of a wash. And also the things he cut were like some of the cheaper, or like more popular things like USAID. And so because he's been a failure, I think now to tack back to fighting with Republicans is like a face-saving move for him. And that's why he's doing it. And so
I'm not going to be your punching bag, actually.
Yeah,
I was doing the good stuff. I was cutting. It's these assholes that aren't doing it, right? Like there's a little bit of that.
That's right. So like, I think he's substantively correct. I just don't think he actually cares about the substance of what he's saying.
Just 2 really quick points on this. One, I think it's just worth reading the tweet that he was responding to when he said that the people that betray America will hear from us in November.
Yeah.
Because it's some right-wing nut who's like, let me get this straight. The GOP is spending millions on luxury hotels in Ukraine. I don't even know what he's talking about there.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Not voting on the Doge cuts. Notice, not codifying the Doge cuts. Spending time on vacation. Not codifying executive orders. Is this the major reform the American people voted for? No. So like Elon it's clear he's talking about the Republicans when he says we refire all politicians who betrayed the American people. Like which exactly Republicans and what he does, that's all TBD. But like that is pretty noteworthy. I also just think that the other thing is in Elon's circles, the Rosetta Stone on this was the All In Boys podcast, which I hate that you have to listen to it. But that Silicon Valley tech world does not like this bill on any of the points that Stephen Miller talks about. They don't like all the immigration stuff. Like that's not what they're there for. Like they're okay with it. They don't give a fuck, but they're not there for all of that funding. They do not like the decrease in funding in all of these technologies, particularly in the energy side of things that they're in a lot of their portfolio companies. They do care about the debt mostly because of like the bond yield and the interest rate and how that affects their businesses more than like a principled, care of the debt, like, whatever, balanced budget style. And so I think the people that are in his ear are like, this bill is bad, right? Like the tech bro, whatever you want to call it, the techno-fascist wing of MAGA doesn't like the bill. And so I think that is just one more layer on top of, I agree with you, Sarah, there's some personality politics underneath this too.
And my guess is that they've been fighting internally about this. And like, this is where things soured, like is across a bunch of these vectors. And that the Trump guys basically got pretty annoyed with Elon thinking that he could stand in the way of their one legislative thing that they're going to do. And so he gets pushed out. Everybody says, no, we're going to be chill. Trump tries to give him a really nice send off so that Elon won't piss all over it publicly. But then as he starts his thing, I can't stand it anymore. Right. Because Elon has the self-control of,
it's hard to mollify drug addicts.
That's right. A ketamine addled lunatic.
Right.
And so he's going after them. But here's what's interesting to me. Let me ask you guys a question. So Elon's got almost infinite resources and a massive platform of propaganda that he can sort of tweak to his liking. Who do you side with for if you're a youngish or even like a Mike Lee, like you've got future ambitions in politics? Like, do you start to look at a rift between Elon and Trump and think, Elon's got all the money for these future races, or I don't want him to primary me? Like there is a world in which people start to look at Elon as the future.
JVL, I want you to answer that, but I'm going to give you a specific person on who you side with. JD Vance.
Yeah. JD Vance has to side with Trump, but his heart is probably with Elon.
No, he'll side with Trump. He doesn't have a heart. I mean, he will sense that you got to stay on side, and I mean, Elon's base of support, like it's real, but it's an elite base of support. Like people aren't coming out to rallies to watch Elon, right? If Elon ran in the primary against a Trump figure, what's he at? 12%? I mean, the techno-fascist
You think?
constituency.
I don't think.
I think the techno-fascist constituency is pretty small compared to like the actual MAGA constituency.
No, but I think this is where all the young men are.
I mean, maybe like the young men who are like into buying crypto. Right. Yeah. The young men who can read, but that's a smaller subsection, Sarah, of the Republican base.
I think right. So would he do, Elon would do better in a head to head. Elon would do better than Nikki Haley. So what'd she end up with? 18. So I'd say you'd put him in the low 20s probably.
Yeah. But here's the thing though. Elon's a special case because he is drug addled and not really rational. The rest of these Silicon Valley guys are going to wind up getting on board because Trump did the biggest thing for them, which is that he gutted the SEC. So right. It is now the Wild West in their world. And none of them, they can go out and do whatever the fuck they want with crypto without there being, and I mean, the wealth transfer we're going to see because the SEC has basically been turned into like, deadwood is enormous. And those guys are all just going to say, yeah, it would have been better if he had cut things down, but they don't really want like Curtis Yarvin, who we'll get to later. They don't, I mean, that's a fun thing to bullshit about over on their signal chain. But what they really want is just keep building their chip stack. And they're going to be able to do that. And that'll be enough, right? It's not, you can't get what you want, but you can get what you need. That's what they need.
Yeah, I think there's truth in that. I think that if they can't rein him in, I think he becomes a genuine problem for them. He has been the muscle and enforcer on Twitter for other bills. Like Elon has been there to help Trump push them through. If he starts actively, let me give you one example. Okay, so there's one Republican who has stood up against this bill, Tom Massey. Okay, so if they all think Elon's going to spend money against them, which I think is a little far-fetched, like his idea that we fire all of them.
That's a long time. That's a long time.
Maybe he starts agitating it. But Trump also
he's going to have 10 more babies before the midterms.
He could be on Mars.
I know, it's true.
Then.
It's true. But Trump also says he's going to primary Massey. So, if Trump's going to primary Massey and Elon's going to defend Massey, there are ways in which these two guys start to end up pitted against each other.
I definitely think it's a problem in that, especially because Elon, here's why I think it's a problem more than the primaries. Elon's critiques of Trump could penetrate the bubble of people that don't really see them. There are a lot of people out, it's in the same way like Joe Rogan talking about the stealing the guy off the street mattered, right? Because it's there are people out there that just aren't hearing some of the complaints about Trump, and Elon can get through to them and has a megaphone to do that in a way that might matter on the margins at some level in Trump's approval. And so I think that matters. I don't think that I'm with JVL on the side of long term. The heat in MAGA is with kind of the cultural right. And if Elon was going to go after Trump, maybe he could take a bite out of it, but it wouldn't be on tightening our belts and the bond yield and the interest rates are good. We're paying so much on the interest rate on our debt, guys. You don't even know. We've all tried that. We've all been there. It's great. Kudos to him for pointing that out. But that is not where the energy is in the GOP. And so if there was going to be a rift that did real damage, I don't know. I'm spitballing. So I don't know exactly what it would be, but it would have to be on something more along the cultural vector.
Not taking white genocide seriously enough.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
No, it would be like that. That's where it would be.
Father's Day gifting is always the same story for me. Socks, grill tools, and then basically repeat. Tie. Things that say Kenyan on them for my dad. This year, I wanted to do better. So because I found Quince, they made buying a more thoughtful gift easy. Quince has all the pieces dads actually want to wear, like organic cotton socks, polos, European linen beach shorts, and comfortable pants that work for everything from weekend hangouts to nice dinners. Bonus when they go from hangout to nice dinners and it's basically the same outfit. The best part is everything with Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find with similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury pieces without all those crazy markups. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. And year-round, Quince is one of the best ways to build out my wardrobe. In fact, my favorite leather jacket, a bunch of the things I wear under my blazers, those all come from Quince. We love Quince. But for the dad who deserves better than basic, Quince has got you covered. Go to quince.com/thenextlevel for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That is QUINCE.com/thenextlevel to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/thenextlevel. Do it for your dads. He's the best.
All right, we gotta keep moving. 2 elections coming up, one in my hometown and one in New Jersey. Do you guys want to talk about New Jersey governor or New York mayor? Because these are opposite sides of the same coin, which is party dysfunction. So
yeah.
Dysfunction for Democrats in New York.
I want to hear you guys talk about the New Jersey governor's race because I just want to be candid. I do my best to follow everything I can. I've found Virginia actually decently close for a variety of reasons, but it's kind of like the Democrats going to win in New Jersey. Do I care that much if it's Mikey Sherrill or Josh? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. So you guys tell me why I should care about the New Jersey governor's race.
Do you want to talk more Democrats or Republicans? Because I think the New Jersey race is much more interesting for the Republicans.
Oh, I want to talk Democrats in New Jersey.
Okay, well then you go Democrats first, and then we'll move to Republicans.
All right, well let me just give you the reason I think it's an interesting race, which is that it's a 6-way race, and unlike New York, there's no ranked choice voting, there's no runoff, right? It's just a straight 6-way race. And Mikey Sherrill, who is a one of the class of 2018, those sort of more moderate women who got sort of swept in the anti-Trump wave. And she's one that I've been watching. I like her. I've always thought she was a good politician and somebody with a bright future. And she's been polling at the top of that field, but like kind of in the mid 20s to 30, I think 30 at the absolute highest. And so
and is the only woman, right?
Is the only woman, which actually helps her a little bit in the sense that she's standing out then in a field full of men. But the other guy who is sort of gaining on her, and so I don't want to preempt my focus groups, but we do the New Jersey governor's race with Amy Walter this Saturday, and it's a really good episode because the guy who's the other sort of front runner, Bacchus, is the guy who got arrested there in New Jersey when he went to visit the ICE facility.
Oh.
And so it really has set up, to me, what is a microcosm of something that Democrats are dealing with and something that I think we talk about a lot, where Mikey Sherrill is kind of the consensus pick and the moderate. And New Jersey is a state where there's like an enormous swing where Kamala Harris won New Jersey by 6 points and Biden had won it by like 19 points, like just an enormous swing to the right there in New Jersey. And so the voters there are genuinely nervous about whether or not the Democrat can win. And Bacchus, I'm like pronouncing his name.
I'm pulling it up because I just said it. I was like, that doesn't sound right. I was like, Bacchus was the Greek god of wine and revelry. It's Baraka.
Baraka.
Mayor of
and
Newark.
So he was the mayor of Newark. And so people have an impression of him, some unfavorable, but the fact that he's gotten arrested, right? Now he's a fighter.
Yeah.
They've got the fighter. And so he is sort of like up in people's estimation. And she's looking like the establishment, not fighting. And so I think that's just like an interesting, even though her policies are fine, like for the voters, they're not like so moderate or anything, but they're like just like straight up Democrat normal. But the voters are looking for a little extra zip right now. And so that's just an interesting race to watch for me.
Wow. Baraka was featured on The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill as a narrator of several interludes in the album. Well, how about that?
Really?
I don't know. I'm color me intrigued. But this guy is not. This is a question. I don't know. Is he running? Because we're about to get in the New York mayor's race, which I've been following much more closely. Is he running as like a squad lefty progressive, or is he running as like a mayor, kind of like you have like black mayor, sort of mainstream Democrat? Do you know? Could you?
He's running as a more lefty. He's running more lefty, and more like performatively anti-Trump.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is she is doing more of mom, helicopter pilot,
right.
like, and some anti-Trump stuff. I think people feel like it's a little less edgy for the moment. And to me, it also signals a difference in the vibes between a 2025 and a 2018, where in 2018, you could get swept in, right? They love a Mikey Sherrill in 2018, but after everything that's happened, now people are a little bit more like, no, I want someone who's going to throw down. I want someone who's going to get arrested.
Yeah, right.
You just hear a lot more of that from voters, and that's interesting.
But he fights.
Meanwhile, on the Republican side, in the state where the last statewide Republican to win was Chris Christie, who did it by being a very, moderate is sort of the wrong word. I mean, people remember Christie as a bomb thrower, but his first election when he unseated John Corzine, he ran as like just a straight shooting problem solver. That was his, it wasn't even moderate.
As a moderate. It's okay. I think moderate is fine to say.
Yeah. So meanwhile, in the Republicans, so when you're on the ballot in New Jersey, you get to have, so I've read in the New York Times, you get to have your name and then a little like your party line below you for what you are. And so we have John Bramnick of the Morris County Republican Party. Okay, fine. Justin Barbara from Enough is Enough Uncompromised. Mario M. Kranjak from Make New Jersey Great Again. Bill Spadia, a common sense Republican, which is interesting because the rest of his campaign is branded as New Jersey Doge. Okay. And then Jack Ciattarelli, the America First Republican of Morris County.
Wow.
So Jack
Those are on the ballot.
Those are on the ballot.
So you kind of get a tagline. That's kind of
you get a tagline. Jack Ciattarelli is on his third gubernatorial campaign. He lost the first one. He was the nominee last time. So he lost in the primaries. Then he was the nominee, lost the general last time. He's just running it back again. He's going to keep doing it. I think it's rarely a sign of health for a state political party that they just keep running the same guy at the top of the ticket over and over again. But it's a perfect. Ciattarelli was a never Trump type who Donald Trump in 2016 called Donald Trump a charlatan and said he was a con man. And then by 2020, he was doing Stop the Steal events. And
I was a charlatan.
Just doing his thing. He's going to win. And the way he's going to win is by, the attacks against him have been primarily the guy who's going to finish second, Bill Spadia of New Jersey Doge, who is a talk radio host, has attacked Ciattarelli for being, all the attacks are by running his anti-Trump comments from 2015.
9 years ago. Yeah.
9 years
ago.
The
JD Vance pick is
you can't
SVP
trust this guy.
Takes the air out of that a little bit.
But I think that this just shows you where Republicans are, even in a non-Trumpy state. This isn't Mississippi, right? This is New Jersey. The Republicans we have in New Jersey are two kinds, right? The Republicans they have in New Jersey are, they've got a bunch of financial services, country club Republicans, and then a bunch of like blue collar ethnic.
But that's Trump's real
types.
Core, actually. I think I like the chorus of the core. If Trump ever got down to 8%, I think that the final 8% would be Northeastern ethnics, working class.
Maybe that's true.
I think that is like pure. That is
maybe it wouldn't be evangelicals.
Core.
Maybe it wouldn't be Cletus. It would be Tony from Tony's Plumbing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So
yeah, it's wild to see, and who knows? Maybe it'll work for them. I kind of doubt it.
It's kind of true about Virginia. It's like Winsome Sears. They're not really trying. The Republicans kind of are not even really trying to win either of these two races, and it just might be tough in a world where Trump's the president to do blue.
I think Ciattarelli has a chance.
You do,
honestly. Yeah, depending.
More than Virginia, probably.
Yeah. I think
I don't
Virginia,
think
Abigail Spanberger is going to win that. But depending on who the nominee is, I do think that the voters were like, they didn't really want to vote for Sherrill, thinking she was too just like part of the Democratic Party. But they did want to win, and they were slightly worried the Republican could win. They were worried about the big swing, and I think they're worried, and I would be a little worried about Democratic enthusiasm just being absolutely decimated right now.
Well, I'm excited. This is the first focus group I've been excited about in months.
Oh,
okay.
Rude.
Very good information
is
revealed.
All right, you want to get outraged? You want me to start quizzing you on my recent podcast interviews? See how you did.
All right. Now let's talk about the real election. New York mayor show. New York mayor. So we got a Democratic primary in 3 weeks. We have a Democratic debate tonight, 9 candidates, not including the Democrat who's the sitting incumbent mayor who's not running on the Democratic Party line in New York City. The 2 frontrunners for the Democratic Party are Andrew Cuomo, who needs no introduction. I will say that in addition to being a creep, he did preside over one of the biggest state-level failures during COVID with the massive deaths in nursing homes in New York State, which he then attempted to cover up. I mean,
honestly, the second worst probably COVID performance behind Ron DeSantis doing a great job, not a great job, but doing a perfectly fine job. And then in the middle of it, deciding, you know what we're going to do? Actually, we're going to take a hard left turn and start doing Novavax. And I'm going to hire a quack to be the Surgeon General because I want to beat Donald Trump in a primary. That was probably the worst performance, but Cuomo maybe second.
So Cuomo pretty bad. The number 2 guy, he is in polls. He's in like the 40 percentile, but they do ranked choice and on the 5th ballot in polling. How valid a poll that goes using ranked choice methodology is, I don't know. But the number 2 guy is Zoran Mamdani, who is, if National Review used ChatGPT to create a Democrat, it would be this guy, Mamdani. He is 33 years old. He is, Sarah, do you know anything about this guy? Because if not, your head is, okay, because otherwise I just want, please, whoever's editing this, Jamie, just focus on Sarah's. And I want like the Curb Your Enthusiasm music. Democratic Socialist, 33 years old. His parents are both academics. And he is named in part for a socialist African revolutionary from the 1960s. He, at college, founded his university. Well, of course, it wasn't a university. It was a small liberal arts college, which is where people like him go to college. He founded their Free Palestine or Students for Free Palestine movement. He majored in African studies. He then went into politics, and having spent 4 years as a state assemblyman, he now thinks he is ready to run a city with a $112 billion annual budget. He is campaigning on rent control and raising taxes on the rich. Give me a fucking break.
He also wants to nationalize the grocery stores.
He does. He wants to nationalize the grocery stores.
I gotta tell you, you guys know that I'm pretty pink inside.
I was like, JVL, come on, you're our commie.
This is your man. I'm surprised you don't have a yard sign. Don't you have a Mamdani yard sign outside your flat?
Your New York home?
my brownstone, outside of my brownstone. Yeah. I look at it and I just think, and by the way, Cuomo, if he does manage to lose this race, has said he's going to run in the general election anyway on another party line. So this is what the Democratic Party has.
No, but Eric Adams is also running.
Eric Adams, a cop who was so corrupt that a Democratic Department of Justice almost put him in jail, who then had to run to take shelter, would have put him in jail, then had to run to take shelter under Donald Trump's warm embrace. A creep who may or may not have behaved very, very badly towards women, but who certainly has a lot of blood on his hands for his performance during COVID. And a 33-year-old Democratic socialist dilettante who lives in fantasy world. And they are running against the Republican nominee, who is the founder of a vigilante group and a talk radio host. This
who wears a
in
fun
the greatest
hat.
city in the world.
The greatest
city in the world.
You know, the worst part is that, there are a couple of decent candidates. Like Whitney Tilson I've gone deep in this. Seems totally fine. He's an investor. Zellner Myrie is a New York State senator. Seems totally great. Normal Democrat. Scott Stringer, not my favorite. He's been the New York City comptroller. Would be a totally acceptable mayor. So like they have other candidates, but everybody is just Cuomo has really fucked with the field of gravity, I think, because he has completely cornered like all of the just I'm a regular Democrat that reads the tabloids.
Oh, I've heard of him.
I'm a New York City Democrat. I'm just, it could be the white ethnics we were talking about, also black and brown folks. I read the New York Post. Some of the Trump stuff's a little too much for me, but I'm there for the page 6 and the tabloids. And I'm not on Twitter. I'm not listening to podcasts. I'm not in, those folks are with Cuomo. Like Cuomo is they found him totally fine as governor. Which I guess, besides his personal issues and COVID, he was, though those are two pretty major issues.
Except for those two things.
Yeah. How was that? Except for that, Mrs. Lincoln. So that's part of the problem. And then some of those folks are with Eric Adams. And so there's just no room. There's no oxygen for anybody else.
No,
but it's truly.
There's room for one left-wing protest candidate. It makes Bill de Blasio look like Cincinnatus. Right. I mean, next to these guys, de Blasio is Pericles.
Totally great.
Sarah, what do you
Zoran,
think
just one last thing really quick
before
we get to Sarah. I want Sarah to say Zoran, and this is a concerning thing going forward. He is gaining with kind of basically Elizabeth Warren voters. That's been his that's how he's
he's on TikTok, right? And he's getting the youngs and
he already had the youngs, and I get it, and so that's an issue. It's gonna be an issue for the Democrats in the future, but not really now. In primaries, he's got the youngs, he's got the Bernie kind of DSA socialist. Though interestingly, unless something's changed in the last day or two, Bernie and AOC haven't endorsed in this race. Has AOC endorsed? I'm gonna endeavor that while Sarah talks. But he's getting those voters, but he's gaining with rich upper class whites. That is who he's getting with. And if you look at the polls, he's actually winning, I think, in the last poll I saw among whites narrowly by 1 point. And Cuomo is just wiping the floor with them among all the other voters. Anyway, Sarah.
I got to say, I'm sorry. Before you start, Sarah, are you as offended as I am at the hubris of a 33-year-old child with almost no experience in anything saying, yeah, I should run this city? It's preposterous.
I mean, I don't know. When Pete Buttigieg ran for president after being the mayor of whatever tiny town he was mayor of, South Bend, I think here's my overall take. And this is probably my TDS, but the way that the specter of Trump hangs over all of our politics is in the following ways. For Cuomo, right? Cuomo, his bad touching or whatever, he's looking at Trump being like, who cares? And I think voters are looking at it and saying,
I wasn't convicted of rape.
We had a moment. Yeah, no, I'm seriously they're we had a moment where we all cared about bad touching of women. That moment has passed. Now we're in a, I don't know, maybe we're going to pardon Diddy cycle of how, that pendulum has swung back in a big way. And also, I do think all sins on COVID are forgiven. People are just, they're going to survivor bias this and it is over.
No, Sarah, I'm sorry. I have to correct you. If you closed schools down for 1 week too long, that is on you for the rest of your life. If you killed a few thousand extra people, that's forgiven.
Yeah, you're right that the people who opened up sooner rather than later, it is a boon versus the people who stayed closed. But I'm just saying that the accountability that people sought for Cuomo, people no longer have that sense of accountability. And that's interesting. The fact that Eric Adams basically thinks he needs to run to stay out of jail. Right? This guy's I need this job or I'm going maybe to jail because then I can't do anything for Trump to keep myself out of jail. And the socialist guy, here's the thing. So I went deep on his social media and I was having all the young guys in my office show it to me. there's a part of the reason he is doing better with is like the sort of upper class rich people is his message. Well, I think the Palestine stuff plays for sort of the white liberal audience more, but also he's mainly talking about housing and affordability. Now his ideas for how to solve that are like, it's like we're going to nationalize
I should give him credit. He's done a little bit of the abundant stuff on housing too. Like we should deregulate certain things. So like he's done a little bit of that, which has been appealing.
But he is handsome and very savvy on social media. Okay, well, whatever. You and I don't have to have the same. But I mean, I don't know. He, whatever. He looks young and vibrant, and his social media is like him walking. It's a lot of quick cuts. Like he is, he's doing a thing that I think is probably the way the future is going to look a little bit as we start seeing a younger generation, like the older Z's, younger millennials. He'd be a younger millennial, I think, jumping into these races. But yes, obviously, I think they should not elect him. But I got nobody to endorse in this race.
Okay, you have to pick right now.
Let
me ask right now. Cuomo, DSA boy, or Eric Adams? Who do you want to be the mayor?
Let me frame this question differently. Which outcome is best for America's macro political environment? Because I propose to you that Eric Adams winning is the best thing for America because he is nakedly corrupt. The Democratic Party does not own him. And he is then Trump's problem, and anything bad that happens in New York is on Trump.
I don't think so. If the Democrats elect him, that's on them.
No, right? But Democrats won't elect him. New Yorkers would elect him because he's not going to win the Democratic primary because he's not in the Democratic primary.
Yeah, maybe. That's not a terrible take. I think that's interesting. Here's the thing about Cuomo. I think Cuomo's going to win. And I think he's going to be reborn as a national fighting figure against Trump.
And then he's going to run for president, doesn't he? Sarah, he's going to run for president, isn't he?
I guarantee you he thinks about running for president. I guarantee you that guy looks at Trump and says, a liberal New Yorker who was corrupt and who was horrible to women got elected president. Why can't I?
And I'm roided up like Vince McMahon. So make me president, Democrats.
Yeah. Just closing the loop, I was correct. AOC is not endorsed in the race. And because there's a big story yesterday about how in CNN, Edward Isaac Devore, about how the candidates are frustrated. And she's been going to them being like, give me a plan to win. And nobody has given her a plan for they could beat Cuomo, and so she hasn't done it. She's getting increasingly savvy. AOC. I should have shouted out Adrienne Adams too, who is the speaker of the city council or whatever that job is called, and who also seems totally fine. Like none of these people are perfect, but they all seem totally. All the ones that have no chance seem totally acceptable.
Tim, if we need to stop the Cuomo for president movement right now, doesn't that also make the Adams winning the general election the best outcome? Because we got to blow this thing up on the launch pad. I cannot have 4 years of, maybe Cuomo will be president.
I'm passing on this one. I would just list all of the other people. I would list all the other people except Cuomo and Zoran and just let the chips fall, I think. I don't know. I don't know. I guess. Who knows? Do we need to stop the Cuomo for president movement? Is it possible the Democrats could find somebody worse than him? I think it's possible. I'm not sure I'm ready to be never Cuomo. I don't like Cuomo. It's a no for me. I don't like him, but I'm not ready to do the hashtag never Cuomo until I see what else is on the table.
Good Lord. All right. Joni Ernst. You did a great video with Sam, her going through the graveyard.
Yeah.
Is she sort of spiraling? Is something going on here? There was a ProPublica story. I don't know if you guys saw this. May have had an inappropriate relationship with a general while she was sitting on the Armed Services Committee. She's got a challenger now. She's got a challenger, a guy who ran against Steve King in 2018, is a state rep in Iowa.
JD Schulten,
I don't know.
Guy.
Yeah, does Joni look like maybe she's unraveling a little bit? No?
Yeah. I think I thought that graveyard video,
that was a Nancy Mace moment.
It was. And here's the thing. They all think they can be Trump, where they can double down and joke. And she's clearly got like a selfie stick and she's in a graveyard. That is a lunatic move. And so she's either unraveling and losing her mind, or she's using just like the worst political instincts on the planet and thinks she can do Trump, or it's a combination of both.
I want to steel man the argument for Joni Ernst doing a psychotic video in a graveyard from just a pure political standpoint. Obviously, she looks like a lunatic. Substantively, she's wrong. Great story from Joe Perticombe this week about how she was like doing maybe I won't vote for Pete Hegseth, and I'm going to vote for him now because he's giving me a czar of sexual assault. It didn't get the czar of sexual assault. Doesn't have any reflection. She is up in 2 years, right? And Iowa still, I don't have it in front of me, but went for Trump, 9, 10, 11? Who knows? Maybe more than that. I haven't looked in a minute. Maybe she figures that the right thing to do politically is just to be like, I'm going to negatively polarize this race. And if I become the black hat or the MAGA hat, the dark MAGA, then that makes it much harder for Democrats to, win any of the Trump voters, because they will just come to my side to defend me against the mean, atheist, godless media that unfairly came after me, and that actually doing outrageous things is maybe a smart political move to protect her Senate seat. I don't know if I 100% believe that, but I don't think that's a crazy thought strategically.
I would buy that, except that she's picking the fight with Iowa voters and not with the media. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's this whole thing started with her at a town hall when she was like, yeah, well, everyone's going to die. Suck it up, Buttercup. And that's what, and her video was not an attack on the media. It was an attack on voters. Like, it was like, you
Trump
voted
by 13 in Iowa, by the way. 13,
yeah.
not 11.
I don't know.
Yeah, although I do think Dems could be poised to have a decent shot in Iowa in 26. There's so it's the crystal ball. Larry Sabato's crystal ball just took the race from
likely to
safe
lean.
Republican to likely.
Yeah, safe to likely.
Because that's when state rep J.D. Scholten announced his candidacy. And so Rob Sand is running for governor. So he's the best Democratic candidate in Iowa and the only one to win statewide. So he could be a decent top of the ticket. Iowa has 2 competitive House races that they could probably get if they got a D+6 swing, they could go. And so look, it's a reach, but not crazy, not out of reach.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by. I think the governor's race is a stretch, but more doable with Rob Sand, because it depends on who the Republicans put forth, and governor's races are a little different than Senate races. And Iowa's not exactly firing on all cylinders economically. Those congressional seats are totally there, so it's worth playing in Iowa to juice turnout to get a couple of those congressional seats that work closer. Senate race is just so tough, I know. In a polarized world environment. The idea that Iowa's going to vote for a Democratic governor and Senate candidate, crazier things that could happen, but I think it's tough.
I just remember her race and the last go around, and she was one who ran 2 completely different ad campaigns in the suburbs and in the rural areas. It was no Trump in the suburban areas, and then hug Trump in the rural areas. And now they know her. And I wonder if they still like her after all this. But I do think the being passed over, and it's sort of in some ways, when you have a scandal coming, as it looked like she might, not only does she double down like Trump, but maybe she's doing a little distraction like Trump. Oh, everybody look at this, not my, although, she's divorced. Joni's doing her thing. I don't know.
How Joni got her groove back.
All
right. So, last night we got word that the USS Harvey Milk is getting renamed, and CBS obtained documents from the Navy with the other names of ships on the recommended list for renaming: the Thurgood Marshall, the Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Harriet Tubman, the Dolores Huerta, the Lucy Stone, the Cesar Chavez, and the Medgar Evers. I'm trying to figure out what unites all of these names. I mean, it seems like it might be that they are named for brown people or women or a gay.
I was going to say Harvey Milk representing the white men's, a cis
but it
white
couldn't
men,
be like
me
that.
and Harvey. I think it's an interesting contrast. I want to start by saying this. I honestly don't give a fuck what our ships are named. Like, we can just call them ship 1, ship 2, ship 3. And so I'm not going to pretend to be that outraged about it. But it is telling that has been a priority for this administration, right? That was like very concerned about like the naming of things. And like that was a very important issue in MAGA world and in MAGA media. They care a lot about naming things. And so since they care about naming things so much, it's important to learn some lessons about what they're doing. And what they've decided is that they want to get the Confederate names back on. Bragg, we took
those
that
very
off,
important
but we're going to put
heritage.
Bragg back on. We're going to find a different Bragg that was maybe not as racist as the other Bragg, but like we want to make sure the Confederate name is back on. And we want to take off the name of anybody that's not a white dude. So gays, if you're a gay man, we got to get your name off. If you're a Confederate, we got to get your name back on. That's what they're doing. That's what they care about. That's their priority. And so like they should just be judged based on their priorities. Harvey was in the Navy. Breaking news to Pete Hegseth. There are some gay sailors out there. It's something. There's some gay stuff that happens on boats.
Right.
I know there is some gay stuff
on
boats. On boats. Some gay stuff has happened on boats before. So like,
aren't there rules?
It isn't
about,
crazy that
past a certain parallel it doesn't count.
I think that's true. What happens on the boat stays on the boat. Yeah, I think the idea that one boat is named after a gay shouldn't be that big of a deal. And these guys are fucking pricks. Is basically, and racist pricks really is what it comes down to.
Sarah, do you care at all? Because I kind of do.
Oh no, well, here's how I care. First of all naval ships should be named after lesbians. And when I'm president, that's what I'm going to do.
Hell yeah.
Second of all, Tubman is an awesome name for a ship. Why would you change Tubman? Tubman's the big tub. It's awesome.
And what did she even do that was woke, by the way? Harriet Tubman.
Well, she was against slavery.
Right. Like
she led people to freedom.
That's woke.
Here's the thing about the naming of stuff. I find it to be just a general annoyance because these are the culture war fights that people have. So like when the libs in Berkeley or wherever said, we can't name the school after Lincoln or Washington or, whatever, Thomas Jefferson, these were slaveholders. I'm like, oh my God, give it a rest. These are the founding fathers. Slavery was our original sin. Like, we understand that, but like, let's leave our schools named after our founding fathers. This is where the woke Trumpsters come in to be like, and no, they all have to be named after Confederate generals and they cannot be named after a black woman, even if she built the coolest underground railroad. It is one of the greatest heroes of, the Civil War era and anti-slavery. Like, everybody who does this and decides that these are the hills they're going to die on, I hold with contempt. And I think people should stop doing this. And I'm with Tim, like we can name them ship 1 and ship 2, but I think it's cool to have our big Navy ships named after people who did cool things for America. And I think they should be as diverse as our history itself, but people should stop like staking claim on this stuff in this way.
The Harriet Tubman one is the real giveaway. It's like if we're going after RBG and Harvey Milk, it's like, well, we just don't want these libs that were, this was just liberal handouts from progressive presidents. Like, we're going after Harriet Tubman.
Well, or Thurgood Marshall.
Yeah, right.
What? Yeah. The first black guy on the Supreme Court? This is. Also, Marshall's a great name for a ship.
Another good ship name. Milk is not really that great name for a ship. If we're going the milk ship.
The big milk.
Harvey deserves it, but the milk isn't a great name. Just
kind of funny if they just named it for random people. Like, this is the Bob Smith.
You said you were mad about this, JVL. You said I want to feel that.
So the reason I'm mad is because this is as clear an expression of revanchism as you will find. Because this isn't about like, going forward, we're going to, when we commission new ships, we're going to name them for real. This is we don't like America, actually. when we look around, we don't like the America we're in, and we want to change it back to a different version of America. And that's just revanchism. And I think that shit is ugly, like really, really ugly and dangerous. And I don't know, like what, we're going to start changing the names of ships every 4 years? Is that a thing we're going to do? Or every 8 years?
The interesting thing also on the Tubman, on the revanchism, is it's one thing that's like, and this is extremely bad, obviously something I have a lot of stake in as a person in a gay marriage. Like, we're going to go back to 1966 when the gays had to be in the closet before Harvey Milk. I'm tired of these fucking uppity gays talking. But no, they're like, that's we don't just want to go back to 1962. We want to take you back to 1862. Like, we don't want to name any of the fucking ships after any of the freed slaves either. And it's like the revanchism is, it's kind of like who is it? The guys that go around the Trump events are like, when was America great? And you have people answering questions, and like you have the Cletus that's like, I think 1812 during the War of 1812 is when I think America is really great.
Things were pretty good in 1855.
No, but it is also like, which part of America are you proud of?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I remember learning about Harriet Tubman and thinking like, this is so cool, like what she did. And this is so brave and heroic. And it made me feel good about America. Thurgood Marshall made me feel good about America. Milk, the end where they all march, it makes you feel good. Or at least for me, it made me feel good about what America is. I think it is weird that those things make you feel bad about America. Like, it should be. Yeah.
Right. I mean, for there was a subset of people they look at that and it makes them angry. They don't like that. One of those people is probably Curtis Yarvin. So we all read this bonkers New Yorker profile of Mencius Moldbug. I just kind of wanted to book club this together. But I mean, we don't have to. It's already been a good show, long show.
Kurt, since we and Will Summer taped a video on it, which folks can watch, which gave my 15-minute or 20 minutes of thoughts if people want that. I'll just say that since then, Mencius has tweeted it at Will and I, and about how we were sneering, and how it's like last.
Dear. Well, that's something he's never done.
It's like the last respite of people that don't want to argue with you. They just sneer at you. And I guess I just want to say, I am sneering at Mencius, and I think that actually engaging with him on the particulars would be less preferable for him than receiving sneers. And it is ludicrous to me that this man is read by the vice president of the United States, and that the vice president not only thinks that what he's saying is insightful, but that he wants to befriend him and he wants to learn from him. A person who whose view of the world is essentially that is essentially China. Like, he wants America to be China. Like, that would be an unpopular thing to say, but he wants a benevolent fascist leader. He would like probably somebody more like Peter Thiel than Chairman Xi, but somebody who is like a techno, a very smart tech person to be kind of like Chairman Xi and do so in a benevolent way. And that is such a ludicrous concept that to do anything besides laugh it out of the room, I think, is ridiculous. And the fact that like some of the smartest people and most influential people in the country have not only not laughed it out of the room, but that are like, no, you are actually our philosopher, and I'm going to be reading your material to look for insights, I find to be deeply dispiriting. And it was about as depressing as the thing as I've read recently, actually. Between that and the Sam Altman book, I liked it better when I didn't know anything about these people, I guess is what I was saying. Rather than now knowing about them makes me more JVL-ish, I guess I would say.
Yeah, well, we didn't have to know about these people before because our leaders didn't engage with them. Yeah. And so, but now that our leaders take them seriously, because here's the thing about the techno-fascists that's interesting to me and to J.D. Vance, speaking of hating America, this is people saying like, no, the American experiment and democracy with its messiness and its consensus building and it's, hard to get everybody like, no, we don't want to do that. We want to do the easy thing. Just put a techno-fascist in charge. Like, they think this is edgy, But democracy is edgy. Like, democracy is the hard thing. Fascism is like it's why Trump does it, right? Because he's lazy and stupid and thinks he's smart, which is the worst. Stupid people who think they're smart and they're like, oh, I'm gonna, if I just ran everything, it'd all be fine. But no, like, we built the world's greatest democracy by having like an appetite for the messiness of it, by having a toleration for the contradictions that exist with it. And like, that stuff's edgy. This stuff, but they think they're edgy, right? They think I'm monarchical, but it's not. It's lazy and dumb. And I can't believe that anyone takes them seriously. And even worse, that it has this pseudo intellectual sheen on it, because it's dumb.
It's really dumb.
I want to say this. In retrospect, Curtis Yarvin is inevitable. And I certainly failed to appreciate why that would happen. Scenes sort of develop, right? Like, there's like a punk rock scene, there's a club kids scene, there's the Fauvist scene in France for art. And when they happen, you wind up with new classes of elites. We created in America this new class of elites out in Silicon Valley. And they were basically all the same. They were a bunch of weirdo white guys, some of them spectrum-y, many of them from fairly privileged upbringings to begin with, because, how do you start $1 million company in your garage? Well, your parents have a garage and they give you a bunch of seed money. Like, that's how that story typically goes. But they then were able to amass levels of wealth which are far outside of the American experience. And when that happened, that was its own level of power. When you create a class like that, they look around for people to be their brains. And these guys were never going to read actual philosophers. They were never going to read Cicero. They were never going to sit down and read, they've
read the one Marcus Aurelius book. Let's give them credit.
Maybe they've read one Marcus Aurelius book. But what they were going to do is they were going to look for somebody within their own caste, and somebody who wasn't famous, and somebody who didn't actually have the money and power they had, but who flattered them. And that's what Yarvin did. The most revealing thing in this entire piece is when Yarvin is telling the New Yorker reporter, how he thinks about his relationships with the Andreessens and Thiels of the world. And what he does is he quotes from an advice to courtiers from the 1700s. I also loved
this quote. I'm so glad you pulled this one out.
Which was, never bug them and never let them forget you exist. Which is like, he's just a courtier, he's one of these lesser nobles hanging around the people with the real money and power and just currying favor with them by saying, well, you should be in charge of everything. And when you think about it, once we had Silicon Valley and once the level of wealth concentrated in the way which we allowed it to concentrate, it was inevitable that those people would find somebody like this and turn him into their court philosopher. And should have seen it coming. Absolutely should have seen it coming.
Okay, on the should see things coming standpoint, just one more out on this. Have you either of you watched The Mountainhead yet?
Not yet.
So The Mountainhead, for people who don't know, is like it's a movie from the Succession guys. It's on Max, and it's essentially 4 of these techno fascists, and they're on a mountain, and their AI starts to ruin the world, and like they all then get into, so what would happen if the four trillionaires, or not trillionaires, 400 billionaires, were in a mountain home trying to navigate the fact that their technology was ruining the world. The movie's not that good as far as the script is concerned. Like, it's not. I don't want to sit here and say, "Wow, this was a really great movie." Like, the plot it's pretty hacky at times. But there are 2 things that are really important about it. Well, one thing that's really important about it, and then one thing is it's really fun. Like, the Succession guy, like 12% of the script is hilarious, right? So like there are 12% of it is like really funny Kendall Roy kind of lines, and then like, well, the plot is like could be better. Okay, but the thing that's most important about it is that the guy that did the movie does have a really important insight into the techno utopia stuff, which I just do not think people have let settle. And so, like, going from reading the Yarvin piece to watching this and listening to the All In podcast. Like there's this strain now that is becoming in vogue, which is that we're going to solve everything. Actually, that like we don't have to worry about these little problems right now, and so some people die in the meantime, or some people struggle in the meantime. It's like, that's like, creative destruction, and like we are on a path towards this utopia that this new technology is going to bring us towards. And as long as we don't impede that path in any way, as long as we don't do anything to decelerate it, they use D-cells in the movie a lot. It's like, as long as you're not a D-cell, then in the back end, it will be all worth it, because I will be able to live forever, or we'll all be able to live in the singularity, or we'll all be able to live lives of leisure, or whatever their version of the utopia is. And in the movie, it's a little bit, it's overdone like anything else. Like the character's a little overdone, but like that underlying strain, I don't think people realize how like it flatters people, and it's popular, and it's percolating out, and it is something that is going to be a very important thing to contend with in the next.
But also, this is not new. That is precisely the thinking that went through most of the communist revolutions in the 20th century. This is what Pol Pot was selling in Cambodia. It's what Mao was selling in China. The idea that we have the socialist dialectic, right? We've discovered this. It is human progress, and is going to solve all of our problems. And some people are going to have to die on the way to it, because we have to break the old systems and build the new systems. But at the end of it, it will all be worth it. And so everybody get behind the collective. This is literally what all of the authoritarian 20th century was. Now these assholes, because they don't know anything about history, just think they're reinventing the wheel with some new technological innovation. And I hate them so much, but I really resent that America allowed them to amass so much wealth. And this is what turns me into a commie. Like, I just don't think it's too much. It's too much wealth, because that wealth confers too much power. And these idiots then can like distort everything around them with the gravitational force of their money.
I'll think about that one. For me, it is just how like pedestrian. Your point about how like they think they have a new idea, and it's actually, to me, this is very like poli-sci 101. They all like they read the AI did a summary of Hobbes's Leviathan, and they all were like, aha, this is the answer. And you're just like, bro, we've all been here before. Like, human beings have grappled with this and moved on from it before. And the idea, your point about the wealth, it's funny thinking about Elon. Just like, I do think, obviously it's sunk in that he spent $300 million to elect Trump. And I had gone from a place of, because the way that the funding sort of works in elections has been shifting over time, where like it used to be sort of corporations and that was the big concern. And then I was like, I don't know, it's kind of an outmoded concern, because now with all the ability to do small dollar funders, it's actually the performative people like MTG who can get all these small dollars. But then it kind of like, now it's back to these massive tech company guys. And look, anybody who raises money knows you go there. Like, that is where tons and tons of wealth is. And as the people who used to, it was a place actually where Democrats were doing a lot of their fundraising. And as everybody got red pilled, right now, it is where the future of the Republican Party thinks they're going, which is again, sort of why I argue that I think the future might be a little bit more with Elon, because they have a very clear plan in their heads of like, yeah, we're gonna institute our utopia. We're gonna move fast and break things. It's gonna be like a monarchical thing, except it's gonna be one of us. We're inventing our own currency. Like, and it's all the Peter. It's seasteading. It's I'm going to Mars. And I got to tell you, people do not articulate this in the focus groups, but I have listened to enough people talk about Elon and everything else to know that part of what is attractive about these guys is that people are nervous about the future. And they don't understand a lot of the new technologies, but they do want people in charge who do, because they feel like it's coming and they're worried about it, but they don't know how to deal with that like fear of the unknown that is sort of coming for them.
What a show.
It's a hell of a show. Guys, it was a great show, a very long show. Thanks for being with us. Again, if you haven't done it already, please hit the like button. It's really, really helpful to us. We will be back next week. Good luck, America.
See y'all then.